to this new function, make single tree, and just call it. It doesn't have any arguments. As you can see, the argument list is empty. There's no arguments, just the name and then the equal sign. So we have to use the function called brackets here after the function's name. Let's try to re-evaluate, reinstall basically the script, and let's run it again. There you go, now it works perfectly. So far the functionality has not been changed. All we did was just placing all the script lines that we had into a function definition, a function's definition called make single tree, and then we called that function once. So we create one tree in the origin with the settings that we had before. So what happens when we actually evaluate this script? As before, it just reinstalls this script into Max. And what happens when we press the button that calls the script? Well, as usual, Max script goes line by line. It will at first evaluate the function definition, this part of the code. It will not run this function, just define it. Then it reads on and finds another script line after its function definition, make single tree, a function call which is calling the previously defined function. So it goes and runs the script lines that are inside the function's script block. And that actually creates the tree in the scene. To extend this function, we'll modify it by adding some input argument variables. I want to be able to define the tree height at the tree creation. The tree is made of the trunk part and the branches part, two objects, the cylinder and the cone. And I defined their relation in a 1:3 ratio. So the full height's 1/4 is the trunk and its 3/4 is the branches. If you check here, our previously preset values 30 and 90 follows this assumption. So we will need one input variable for now. Let's call it tree height. And we're going to use this value to define a new height value for the trunk and the branches objects. Let's remove the height preset change from these constructor lines so it's more easy to understand what we're doing. There we go. And now I'll add an extra line here. My cylinder dot height should equal tree height divided by 4, and my cone dot height should equal tree height, and we have to take 3/4 of this value, so times 3 divided by 4. If you think back, the original values were 30 for the trunk and 90 for the branches. That equals 120 as a total height. So that would work the same way with these new lines added here. It would create the same size trunk and same size branches. So we have the sizes changed, but do we have to change anything else to actually make this work correctly? Well, yes, this myCone.position equals 30, that was a line that elevated our cone above the trunk. Now if we change the trunk's height, we have to elevate the cone a little bit higher. So we actually will change this hard-coded value into myCylinder.height. So we should put the Z position of the cone object to the myCylinder's height value. And then, now that we have an input variable, an input argument for mySingleTree, this function call would not work because MaxScript will expect at least one input variable, so we should supply that. If we supply 120, that's going to result in the exact same tree that we had before, because that's what the preset values had, that we had here. Trunk was 30 and the branches were 90, that's 120 total. So we did change the script a little bit, but its functionality hasn't changed yet. But now the script is extended so that we can actually use this function to create multiple different sized trees with it. Let's try that. I'll evaluate